Hello guys, welcome back. And today we're going to be talking about 2019 NHL draft prospect Vasili Podkolzin and if he actually is overrated. Now, Vasili Podkolzin has been touted as a top 2019 NHL draft prospect, but does he deserve to actually go top 3 behind Hughes and Kakko? And is he actually overrated? Watch till the end to find out. Now, Vasili Podkolzin might be the most polarizing prospect when it comes to this 2019 NHL draft. You could ask a ton of people. Some people might say that he's a top 3 prospect here. Some people might say that he doesn't even touch the top 20. He really is that polarizing, even though he is a pretty talented prospect. Now, Vasili Podkolzin is at age 17, born from Russia. He's a right winger and is 6'1", 190 pounds. A big prospect for sure. And he's very interesting because, again, there are some people that aren't as high on him as some other people. But when it comes to some very credible sources, he is really high up and really high up in the draft rankings. Now, when it comes to TSN, they have him ranked number 3. Future Considerations, they have him ranked number 3. And Sportsnet also has him ranked number 3, right behind Hughes and Kakko, which shows just how good he can be. And when you look at his profile and you look at the stats that he's been putting up, you would expect a little bit more, at least from a guy that is being ranked consensusly at number 3 by some big publications. That's what I was expecting when I kept hearing Vasili Podkolzin's name, and I've known him for quite a while, and this season, really, he hasn't played up to that kind of caliber, at least on paper. When we look at the points, he is nowhere near a top 3 prospect, but when we look at his actual in-game stats, when we look at his year as a whole, there's a different story to tell here than just the points that he's been putting up. Now, a big reason for that is that Vasili Podkolzin's season has been very interesting in the sense that he has played on a bunch of teams throughout this year. While a player like Kakko has the advantage of playing in one league for the whole season and gelling with his teammates, Vasili Podkolzin doesn't quite get that luxury this season, as he's played in 6 various leagues and tournaments this season, not really getting too much chemistry or too much time in any of them. And that's kind of gone down for his stats, as he hasn't had the time to really grow as much as he can, but in the games that he has played, from what I've seen, he's a pretty great prospect, and the talent definitely shows that. And when we look at Podkolzin's numbers on paper, the goals, the assists, the points, it just doesn't add up. Why would this guy be a top 3 pick just out of nowhere? And that's what I thought would begin the season. Yes, he did have a great Hlinka Gretzky Cup, but after that, he just wasn't putting up many points. He wasn't actually playing well in the leagues that he was going to. And that was kind of my argument against him, as we did the mock drafts on the channel before. That was kind of my argument for not having him top 3, top 5, top 10 even. And those are some valid points. But when we look at Podkolzin's game this season, yes, he is a talented prospect, but that kind of player you can't really judge on the points, because there are some examples of him not really getting the opportunity that some other prospects might have. Now, once again, Podkolzin has played in 6 different leagues and tournaments: the VHL, the MHL, the KHL, International Juniors in Russia for both the U18 team and the U20 team, and of course the World Junior Championships team for Team Russia. He has been on a ton of different teams, trying to get chemistry and trying to gel with a ton of different teammates. And when you're in that kind of position, for a player that young to play in the KHL, play in the MHL, play in the VHL, play in the World Juniors, it kind of rattles a player at that point. While Vasili Podkolzin, you would like to see some more points on the board for sure, the points that he has put up also have a story behind them, and the fact that he hasn't even gotten time to gel with his teammates. He's played 14 games at max, and that was with the VHL, and that's just not enough time to judge. Now, the stats he did put up in the VHL were not that great. He ended up playing 14 games, getting 2 goals, 3 assists for 5 points. And in the MHL, he ended up playing 12 games, getting 6 goals, 2 assists for 8 points. In the KHL, he got 3 games played and got 0 points. In the World Junior Championships team with Team Russia, he played 7 games and got 3 assists for 3 points. So, when we look at those overall numbers, the World Junior Championships numbers were pretty solid. But when we look at those numbers as a whole, he should by no means be a first-round prospect even. By no means he should be a top 3 prospect at all. But again, there is a deeper story here, especially when we look at the ice time. And when it comes to the MHL, he was playing about 60 minutes per game on average. In the VHL, he was playing about 11 minutes. And in the KHL, he was lucky to play 3 minutes a game. So there are more stories behind that. And of course, when it comes to the forward ice time, Podkolzin has just not got enough in any leagues he's played in so far. And for a kid that is trying to grow his draft stock, he hasn't gotten too much of an opportunity to do that whatsoever this year. With all the team switching, not getting enough ice time, there is a good explanation on why Podkolzin is not even putting up the stats that he should be. And my gripe always against him was that he wasn't putting up the stats that he should be in the MHL, in the VHL, whatever it might be. I always expected better from him for a prospect that is going top 3. And for me personally, that was my biggest gripe against him. In my March mock draft, I had him at number 12, and obviously next month I will have him a little bit higher in the mock draft, but I'm starting to turn a page on him because he's got some pretty good explanations as to why he hasn't produced that well, and yes, while you'd like to see better, there are good reasons for it. And if you were to ask me just a month ago what my opinion was on Vasili Podkolzin, I would have said he is completely overrated, the most overrated player in the NHL draft, and that would have been my opinion. And now I've started to change a little bit, and now I'm starting to see the reason as to why so many people have him so high. And I'm not going to put him number 3 right now, but Vasili Podkolzin is starting to grow on me, not just for the talent, because I always knew it was there, but because I always thought he was overrated, but there are some great explanations as to why he isn't playing well, mostly because of opportunity, and to Podkolzin, he just hasn't been put in a position to succeed. And while obviously, yes, you'd like to see more than 5 points in 14 VHL games, 8 points in 12 MHL games, obviously you'd like to see more performance, you'd like to see more points on the board, but Podkolzin is a great example of why when it comes to prospects, you shouldn't base solely on points. Yes, points most of the time are a pretty good determinant on how well this prospect is playing, but when it comes to Podkolzin, he is pretty much the perfect example of why it is not 100% true, because there are some great examples as to why Podkolzin should be ranked higher than I initially gave him, and I never even gave him the benefit of the doubt. I didn't give him that benefit of the doubt that he was that good, but Podkolzin is that good. Talent-wise, offensively, amazing hockey IQ is there. The overall physicality, he brings it, being 6'1", 190 pounds. He is a great player and a great prospect in this upcoming draft, and I'm sorry that I kind of skipped over him because of the stats that he was putting up. And again, everything in his game is there. The hockey IQ, the puck skills, the shots, the defense he is pretty solid at. And when it comes to the overall player, if he can put it together in the NHL, he will be a lethal first liner. And in my personal opinion, I even had this opinion before, is that the potential of Vasili Podkolzin is through the roof. If he fulfills his potential, he could be a top 5 player in the NHL, I feel. He could be that good. But again, it's all about if he actually fulfills that, which this season, he hasn't to a point, but this season, there has been a lot of exemptions to that rule, and Podkolzin I still think has a ton of talent that a team in that kind of 5 to 10 range wouldn't mind getting. But with Vasili Podkolzin, I wouldn't go as far to say as he would be a top 3 prospect in this draft. I think he has the potential to be coming out of this draft, but when it comes to where he might land, I feel like it'll be in that 5 to 10 range, because I think there will be some teams that might skip over him because of the worrying stats that he's put up. But when it comes to the ice time, when it comes to how many times he has switched to get teams over the course of the season, there is a solid explanation as to why Podkolzin is not putting up these elite numbers that we want him to. And even then, even if he wasn't, I would still be pretty high on him because of how much talent he has. He brings that every game. He has shown that so far. And while he is pretty much on a land of his own when it comes to Russian prospects this draft, he is amazing, and overall wise, he is one of the more complete players, I would say, offensively in this draft, and a team that needs that type of player would happily take Podkolzin if they actually do develop him. And again, with almost every single publication out there, they either put him in the 3 to 5 range, but I've seen a lot of people put him in the 20s, put him in the 10s, and for me personally, again, I had a number 12 in my mock draft. I was not that high on him, even though I did like his overall talent level, and that's something that is a mistake that I kind of made. And while I will not put him number 3 in the mock draft next month, he will go up quite a bit, because me personally, there are some good explanations as to why he isn't putting up those points, and to me, I thought he was completely overrated. There was no reason why he should be number 3. And while I think it is still a big reach to put him number 3 in this draft, he is still a very solid prospect and one of the best 4 prospects, especially in this draft. And while I by no means think Vasili Podkolzin will go 3rd overall, I don't think he's that most overrated player in the draft anymore. I would have said that a couple of weeks ago. I would have said for sure it was Vasili Podkolzin. But I'm starting to change my mind as I'm starting to see the reasons as to why he hasn't really produced so well this season. While he is switching teams, while he doesn't have that great ice time, he is a super talented player and has everything you would want in a player like that offensively. And to me, again, I was wishing for that reason. I wanted to put him higher because I knew he had a lot of talent, and I was always concerned about the stats he was putting up. But now that I have that reason and the explanation, he's going to go up a lot in the mock drafts, so watch out quite a bit. So while putting Vasili Podkolzin number 3 might not be the best place for him, he's super talented, and now we have the explanations as to why he isn't producing that well, as to why he is still one of the most talented players in this draft. And again, I was always waiting for that reason to put him higher in the draft, and while I personally will not put him number 3, it isn't that much of a reach anymore, which compared to a couple of months ago, is some big progress. But of course, with this video, I want to hear your guys' thoughts down in the comments down below. So let me know, what do you think about Vasili Podkolzin? What do you think about his season so far? Do you buy into the points? Or do you buy into explanations as to why he isn't producing that well? Let me know also, where do you think he'll go in this NHL draft? Do you see him going number 3, or do you see him going lower than that? And also, finally, let me know, what do you think about Vasili Podkolzin, and do you think he's actually overrated? But if you guys want some more Grav videos just like this one, you can click on this card right here to watch my 2019 NHL Mock Draft March edition. But that is going for today, guys. If you guys did enjoy, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you haven't already. Again, comment down below your thoughts on Vasili Podkolzin and if he is actually an overrated prospect. And I'll see you guys in the next video or stream. Goodbye.